Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to speak at this impressive gathering for the World Government Summit. The United Nations is grateful to the United Arab Emirates for bringing leaders and people together to reform and modernize governance and government. We simply have to do better and to do it together to address our shared 21st century national and global challenges. And some of them are the same. In today's world, a good international solution is in the national interest of the nations of the world. This event in Dubai has become a welcome annual occasion to promote partnerships across traditional sectors, taking advantage of the innovative, reform-minded and forward-looking environment of the UAE. We saw the news last night about the reform efforts and reform plans of the leadership of the country, and noticed the ambitious, almost impatient move in modernizing our societies. I was particularly impressed by the fact that you are creating a Ministry of Climate and Environment, and also that you appointed a 22-year young woman as Minister of Youth. Quite impressive, important signal from this country. Reform efforts will be crucial for all of us now, when we are to live up to the two landmark agreements of 2015. I'm very proud to announce the enormous achievement that was made last year by the member states, that they kept this ambitious level both on the Sustainable Development Goals adopted on the 25th of September in New York, and of course the seminal historic agreement on climate change in Paris in December. This agenda, 2030, is, in my view, the most transformative development agenda ever adopted by member states of the United Nations. The member state didn't go the road that I've often seen in negotiations of the lowest common denominator. No, they kept the ambitious levels, they kept the ambitions high, which of course also means that the people of the world have high expectations, and we have to face up to that. This agenda commits us to leave no one behind. We are guided by 17 interrelated Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which aim to free all human beings from the tyranny of poverty, the tyranny of want, and to heal and secure our planet. The goals are strongly connected to vital sectors and themes identified by this summit so wisely: education, health, technology, labor markets, and as a thread through everything, sustainability. We are the first generations in history which have to think about the conditions of life on this planet and exercise responsibility for next generations. The SDGs aim to strengthen the global partnership for sustainable development and to foster peaceful, just and inclusive societies, as we just heard from President Kagame. This shared vision offers hope and encouragement at a time when many countries, not least in this region, are confronted with crisis, with conflicts and economic stress. Less of economic stress, I would say, in this country and its neighbors. Our challenge now is to bring to life the agenda and the Paris Accord, and to turn these important agreements into realities for people on the ground. This is our challenge. I always carry the UN Charter in the pocket, and I remind myself and others of the first three words of the UN Charter. It is "we the peoples." We the peoples. We are in the end accountable to the peoples in our countries and the peoples of the world. Now, I would like to highlight four factors, four guiding principles that can help make this happen turning these goals into realities. The first is universality. I'll come back to it. The second is integrating the agenda in every nation, their plannings and their institutions. The third is using the agenda as a comprehensive framework and these goals as interrelated tools to make it happen. The fourth is keeping careful track of progress. Let me say a few words about each of these points. First, on universality. The SDGs reflect the obligations of all governments around the world to shape a better future. The agenda is to be implemented in all countries, rich and poor, large and small. The SDGs also reflect the aspirations, the dreams of millions and millions of people, men, women and children all around the world. The goals are to give a horizon, a hope to people everywhere, especially to those who live on the margins of society or in states ravaged by conflict. And we have seen enough of that, haven't we? Technology, very much a theme of this great conference. Technology can help, not least in the areas of health, energy, and communications. We must address digital divides between genders, generations, urban and rural areas, as well as between countries in peace and countries in crisis. And I'm glad this summit focuses on these crucial technological challenges. Second, on integrating the SDGs into national planning. Our experience with the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, I was around at that time also, highlighted the central role for national governments in sustainable development. Governments are key in setting the direction and creating the conditions for the implementation of the SDGs. Government leadership can unleash social and human capital by bringing voices and ideas into play from home and abroad. There are expectations, not least from youth, to have their voices heard. We should understand that we should not only speak for youth, we should also speak with youth, with and for youth. And youth are both objects, but they're also subjects. We have a great challenge to make sure that they have a sense of hope and aspirations for the future that can turn into realities. Government leadership can shape the environment for the national and international business community to innovate and invest. And also by using this integrated approach that we heard yesterday from Sheikh Saif on the need to have the integrated way of working. I would generally say that we should avoid the vertical working method, the silo method. We have to be good in the silo and the vertical, but we also have to understand that when we reach results, we have to go horizontal and reach out to other actors, other sectors. Several governments, like United Arab Emirates, already are framing national strategies and planning on the basis of the SDGs. Other governments have begun this process. I urge them to vigorously continue to do so and to shape national-owned objectives and policies with the SDGs as a starting point. Innovations grounded in tradition, and as I've learned here in Dubai, for instance, this smart majlis, are excellent steps in this direction. Crowdsourcing, peer reviewing, as well as inputs and insights from citizens and consumers can help and enrich national decision-making. Third, on the SDGs being a comprehensive framework, the SDGs build bridges between peace and security, development and human rights, the three pillars of the United Nations. Without peace, no development. Without development, no peace. And without respect of human rights, none of the above. I would also add the rule of law and strong institutions. The same goes for the SDGs. Advancing one of the goals will stimulate and trigger progress on others. I saw that yesterday at a workshop, how they worked in terms of clusters, seeing that, for instance, on health, you have to be looking into the area of water and sanitation to see the complexity and the comprehensive approach that is necessary. The SDGs are by nature cross-cutting and mutually reinforcing, again confirming this horizontal approach of working that I think is absolutely necessary in today's world. The SDG agenda therefore calls for a whole of government, whole of society approach involving all areas and levels of government as well as of other partners. The MDGs, for instance, they almost always related to official development assistance and relationship donors, recipients, countries. Now we reach into areas which are not part of classical development policies, like how do we develop the transport sector, the energy sector, the agriculture sector, the industry sector. In other words, government have to already be involved in this international effort, which at the same time is national. So the borderline between national and international is really slowly disappearing. The agenda calls for a unified approach that brings together development and humanitarian efforts. It also calls for the pursuit of peaceful societies, strong institutions, and rights-based development policies. Coordinated action within and between national, regional, and international institutions has never been more needed, including with the Bretton Woods institutions. I was glad to see Jim Kim here yesterday, also Angel Gurria of OECD. We have to reach out also between institutions. And we in the United Nations, I promise you, recognize this and are ready for cultural and operational change on our part, both at headquarters level and in the field. Also, member states are now more and more focusing on how we can work better between government, the private sector and civil society in both development and humanitarian work, as this conference has proved over the last few days. The SDGs and the Paris Agreement on climate illustrate that tackling one issue practically always positively affects other sectors. And this has been widely recognized by large sectors of the business community. They know, for instance, that low carbon and sustainable production consumption can be both profitable and be the right thing to do for people and for the planet. Let us remember, there is no standard model, and we have no standard model to present from the UN side for our work ahead. Every nation, every institution decides how it best develops the most effective methods and mechanisms for the road ahead. What matters, in my view, is the effectiveness, transparency, and inclusiveness of the government programs. Apart from political will and effective governance, technology can bolster the ability to strengthen institutions. Quantitative models can help create scenarios and identify future pathways. I went to this museum, the exhibition on the future, and I realized that I was far behind. There is room to improve such models, scenarios, with respect to SDG areas like health, inequality, and gender. Some countries will benefit from additional capacity to use such tools. There are great opportunities here for partnership and innovation. I also see great opportunities for partnerships which build country capacities to plan, deliver, and review policies to implement the SDGs. This should be part of the strengthened global partnership. This we pledged to realize at the September summit and at the Addis Ababa Conference on Financing for Development. My fourth point concerns keeping track of progress. In Agenda 2030, UN member states committed to review implementation of the SDGs at the country level, also involving civil society and other actors. In some countries, governments have gone to legislative bodies to explain how they intend to achieve the SDGs. In fact, the legislative bodies also have to understand that the new agenda also deals with issues that were traditionally considered domestic affairs, agriculture, transport, etc. Now we are all having both a national and international agenda at the same time. So this should be part of the strengthened global partnership that we pledged. In some countries, there's also now a process of building national statistical capacity, which should be an integral part of development policies. I must admit that here we have lots of work to do. Some of the statistics that are the basis for our work is still not completely certain, and we need to build up statistical commissions in many countries. They have to provide evidence for institutional and policy changes. This agenda also commits countries to review at the United Nations. We have a high-level political forum coming up in July, and Secretary General Ban Ki-moon recently called on all countries to champion bold approaches to this high-level political forum. And this meeting in Dubai, I'm sure, will give impetus to the countries who volunteered to conduct reviews in 2016 in preparation for the July meeting in New York. In closing, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Agenda 2030 is an historic achievement by the member states of the UN, and you should all be proud of this piece of diplomatic and statesmanlike work. It's also an invitation to collaborative action between and within nations. It highlights the interrelationships between the various facets of our societies and our lives. It gives us a dynamic tool to make collective progress towards a healthy planet and a life of dignity for all, which we need so much to see. Agenda 2030 offers a unique opportunity to rally all countries, civil society, the business community, and the academic world around the quest for a more fair and equitable world. We must not miss this historic Agenda 2030 opportunity to do the wise and to do the right thing in our own interest, in our own enlightened self-interest, and for humanity. This summit in Dubai on shaping future governments can serve as a catalyst and a driver to concretely and together chart the road ahead to a life of dignity for all. I thank you.